Hello everybody. This week's talk is going to be a little bit different than usual. Father Tom is away on a silent retreat, if you can believe that. So I decided I was going to do a little video about something that's been on my mind. And you may think it's a political talk, and in a certain sense it is, but it's really very much, I think, a talk about our mission as Christians. So I want to start with a quote from Pope Francis. And Pope Francis said, "A good Catholic meddles in politics, offering the best of himself," I'll add, or herself, "so that those who govern can govern." So, and this is Walter, by the way. He decided to get in on the video. So I want to share with you some thoughts and reflections I've been having about the culture we're living in today. I'm sure many of you feel the same way. I found the climate here in America, the emotional tone and tenor, the amount of anger, violence, blatant racism, toxic nationalism, and frankly, the arrogant disregard for expertise and disdain for factual information to be totally overwhelming. When we add to this the effects of the pandemic, then we have mass shootings, we have climate events, forest fires, rising sea levels. It's just overwhelming. For me, the height of my disillusionment came when I watched an army of vulgar, violent insurrectionists take over our capital. There are days when, despite my faith, it just all seems too much. I have 2 grandsons and another on the way, and I become alternately furious and distraught about the world we're leaving them. A world where their parents have to worry about whether or not they'll make it home safely from school, or whether there'll be a viable planet to sustain them as they grow into young men. In fact, last year at this time, I had to take myself to therapy to address my constant sighing, raging anger, and deep sadness about all of it. And that was before Uvalde. Perhaps the worst of it was feeling helpless to affect any positive change. Even as a committed lifelong voter, more and more I was feeling that political game playing, gerrymandering, voter suppression, gridlocked partisan politics all undermined the power of my vote in a democracy where, sadly, the candidate with the most votes doesn't always win. I never dreamed I would see the America we've become. Hate speech under the guise of some dangerous brand of judgmental religion, a place where neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and smiling politicians sending out Christmas cards, posing their family and their children with assault rifles. All this has made its way into mainstream politics and elected office. We are in a very, very dangerous place. So after wallowing around in this dark emotional place for a good year or more, lifting it all up in prayer, committing myself to daily meditation, I'd have some better days, but honestly, there was a deep, disappointing sense of resignation that ran through all of it. I really found myself saying things like, I'm really glad I'm old because I don't like where this is going. And then I would stop and say, but wait a minute, I have grandsons, I have children. So slowly, I really began to see that the depression and the rage that I'd been feeling was all about being stuck under something that felt totally overwhelming. And when we get stuck, that's when things happen. For me, the Uvalde shooting flipped a switch. I became very, very angry. And I had this overwhelming sense that I need to do something, change something. How are we going to turn this Titanic around? But the question is really, what can I possibly do? This week I came across this quote. Every voice for justice and human rights would agree that we all need to act instead of relying on movement leaders. Whatever actions one can take makes a difference. These are the small individual actions that, when practiced diligently and coordinated together in the thousands, make every powerful social movement possible. And as Christians, these are my words now, as Christians, we received a mission and a responsibility to do this, even if we might be afraid. I think it was John 1, which says, love casts out fear. This is part of our mission, to stand up in the face of fear. And so I think for a long time, I'd been looking for the one cause I could really be passionate about, the cause best aligned to whatever gifts and talents I might be able to bring to the table that God gave me. And what I discovered was this: there is no perfectly aligned match, and to continue to look for it means I'm just wasting precious time. Instead, I have committed to do something, even some small thing, some small instrument of change every day. Along with my meditation, my contemplative practice, this activism must be considered an essential part of a spiritual practice. Because if we just hang around in contemplation, we can kind of forget about the world out there. And if we only hang around in activism, what happens is we burn out. We really need both. So that commitment to some bit of daily activism that I'm making, I am going to urge you to make as well. I don't have all the answers. I don't even have a fraction of them, but I do have some ideas, and I thought it would be worth sharing them with you, the things that I'm going to try. So here's my list. At every opportunity, share an affirmation or a kindness with a stranger, trying to keep in mind that God dwells within them. And to do so especially with people who rub me the wrong way. Make eye contact with them, make heart contact with them. See the good in them. Commit to learning. I think this is so critical in the culture we're living in right now. To be well informed from a variety of sources on topics that affect the well-being and the common good of people and the planet. Drop all assumptions. Fact check. Read something of substance every single day. Use principled journalism, well-researched books, studies, the lessons of history to inform the positions that I take, and be ready to adjust those positions as new information comes to light. And I think that idea of being open to all of it, looking at it through a critical eye, is so important. Sign petitions from organizations that forward these positions that we've come to and feel passionately about. Apply corporate pressure. I found out recently that my bank, in a major way, funds the fossil fuel industry and other polluters. So my intention is to write them a letter, to call my financial advisor, and to protest and see if in some small way that letter might make a difference. File polite complaints and suggestions to companies that waste resources, pollute the environment, or advertise on networks that promote dangerous content. Volunteer to write postcards to get out the vote at election time. I've committed to write 300 postcards to registered voters who rarely vote. It could really make such a difference. And trust me, I don't feel like sitting around at night writing postcards, but that's what it means to involve yourself in something like this, to commit to it, when I'd rather be watching episodes of Frankie and Grace. Write polite but strong letters to political leaders on issues that matter. I'm going to tell you another little story about the letter writing. It's called Adventureland here in Rhode Island. It's kind of a place that is billed as a family fun center. They have a little race car track, they have a carousel, they have boats. And I fully intend to bring my grandsons there when they arrive next week. And I went there ahead of time and sort of figured out what I was going to do with them. And I saw that in the midst of all this family fun, they have these 2 big electronic games, and a guy and his 10-year-old son using, this fake assault rifle to basically decimate virtual human beings on the screen. Well, I got an email off to them, and a letter's going to follow, and if it doesn't change, then it's going to be a letter to the editor. That kind of thing. I'm committed to change careless behaviors, to use tap rather than bottled water, to recycle, I converted part of my lawn to native plants. I stopped using pesticides, which is why you see me waving away gnats and mosquitoes. Switch from bottled laundry detergent to laundry sheets to avoid all of that excess, forever chemical plastic, and to try to purchase fair trade products whenever possible. Commit to supporting causes I believe in by volunteering and through monthly donations. Like, put your money where your mouth is. I can give up a meal out, I can give up the latte at the coffee shop, and I can instead put that money into something valuable. Donate decent clothing and household items instead of having a garage sale. I've committed to, every time I buy an article of clothing, to give an article of clothing away. Write an editorial to the local newspaper. Speak up to injustice whenever you see or hear it. Apply consumer pressure by boycotting products or companies who do harm. Join an organization to increase your impact. So, I think that's enough of a list that I should be able to do something every day. It's about being mindful, developing positive habits, making informed and committed choices, sacrificing when necessary to a larger end. I think we've been so complacent about that. It's putting on the mind of Christ in every situation. My friend and fellow Journey of the Soul community member, Pat Carolyn, recently reminded me of the story of the starfish. You probably know it, but I think it bears repeating. The story goes like this. A young girl was walking along a beach upon which thousands of starfish had washed up during a terrible storm. As she came to each starfish, she would gently pick it up and throw it back into the ocean. She'd been doing this for some time when a man approached and said to her, "Little girl, why are you doing this? Look at this beach. You can't save all the starfish. You can't even begin to make a difference." And the little girl bent down, picked up one starfish, tossed it into the ocean, and replied, "Well, I made a difference to that one." We have to stop lamenting the state of the world and start changing our little part in it. I'm asking you to make this commitment with me to some kind of daily activism, however seemingly small the action might be. If we don't, if we're complacent, we become a very part of the problem that is just dragging the world and the country down. So, as part of your mission that you were baptized to commit to, would you do that with me? Can we make it a part of our spiritual practice? Please consider, and thank you for listening.